Welcome. As you know, this is week 2. Woohoo! We're in week 2, and it's called Name That Customer. So what we're going to be talking about today is customer personas and how you can be super creative with that. We have an incredible guest speaker lineup that I'm going to talk about momentarily here. But first, if you haven't already, please go into the participant area, find your name, and click on More and Rename. So this way, Corey and Raj are able to know who you are and can assign you to your proper breakout session. So if you haven't done that already, please do, and feel free to put your name -- your company name if you want to do that as well. That's also pretty fun. All the main sessions, what we're in right now with all of us, we're recording these. I do want to mention that when you go into your breakout room, you'll still see a little blinky recording, but Zoom is not recording those. They're only recording the breakout sessions. So you can speak freely. You can talk about things that you might not want to talk about in the larger group with your facilitator. And all the breakout rooms have awesome mentors that have joined us today, who you're going to also meet shortly. And I mentioned this last time, but I know some of you weren't on the first week, so I just want to reiterate the virtual etiquette. We're all professionals, but I do want to remind everybody just to remain muted throughout the session. And if you do have questions, you can either post them in the chat, or you can use the raise your hand feature and we'll unmute you and you can speak if you prefer. And though this accelerator truly is about helping you increase your sales and making more money, making it rain, but there's a time and place for that. These sessions are meant to be educational, so please don't market your services to your fellow cohort members. We want this to be a safe place. We want it to be a place for inclusivity and learning. And then again, thank you all for showing up on time. Really appreciate that. So the agenda for these sessions are going to flow like this. In the beginning, I will do a brief intro, and then you'll move into the breakout sessions for 20 minutes. When you're in that breakout session, you will see at the end, I believe it's a 60-second countdown. That will alert everyone in that session. Will see that, not just the facilitators and the mentors. You'll know, okay, in 30 seconds or 60 seconds, you're going to sort of get zoomed out of space back into this main session. And that's when you're going to hear from the awesome Jill Nelson and also Corey as the guest speakers for today. Though we have a segment at the end for Q&A, we want the featured speakers section to actually be interactive. So if you do have questions for Corey or Jill as they're presenting, please post them in the chat. We do have people monitoring that on the team, or you can use, as I mentioned, the raise your hand feature, and we'll call on you. And then we'll talk about the homework. And while you're in the breakout sessions, that's really what you're going to be doing, is sort of reviewing the homework that you got from Seth and Robin from Tofurkey in week 1. So the featured speakers today, I'm not going to do a formal introduction of them yet, but I did want you to know we have Corey Wright, our venture catalyst serving Lynn Benton, and he's also the founder and CEO of Massive Games. And then Jill Nelson is the founder of Ruby.com, and she's also now a partner in Elevate Capital. We're so excited to have Jill join us today, and she has some really fun examples to talk with you about how she literally grew her company in that hockey stick graph that we all see and we all want to put in our own financials, where you start off a little bit slower and then you spike. She's actually done that and has surpassed 60 million in sales. So we're awesome. We're excited to have Jill with us today. So just to remind you all about the summer fun that we have planned for all of you, the 10 weeks of sales and marketing fun. We are in week 2, Name That Customer. I'm not going to read through the other weeks. You can read those here, but we've put a lot of thought into making sure that we put a really solid program together for you guys. I also want you to know that my team planned this and launched it in 9 days. And that just goes to show how we can all be really agile. That also means that there's going to be some blips here and there, right? We're going to have potentially some tech things happen. You might have some questions for us and you're like, why are you doing it that way? Please use Slack to let us know your feedback. We want to improve this as we go. Our model at RAIN is investigative, not prescriptive, so we can switch things around. We also have a cohort's choice in week 9. So after week 8, you'll have a pretty good idea. Really, after week 6, you'll have a good idea of what's working and what isn't working, or what you want to hear about, and then we'll find speakers for that. So here are your cohort facilitators. Because there's so many videos, it might be hard to see who's waving, but really quickly, I'd love for you guys to just do a quick wave. Ariel Rubin, she's a venture catalyst with Oregon RAIN, serving rural Lane County. She's cohort 1. I'm cohort 2 with Corey Wright, who I already talked about earlier. Cohort 3 is led by Raj on our team, who's a rural venture catalyst, also serving rural Lane County. Raj is also the founder, CEO of Young Mountain Tea. And then Laura Kubishak is also with us. She's a venture catalyst through the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network, and she's joined us today. She's a facilitator lead, also has a lot of big experience working in sales and marketing in the corporate world and with lots of startups. And then cohort 5 is Stephanie. She's a venture catalyst serving Grant County, also an entrepreneur herself in the personal care space and consulting. And then Anna is our community recovery fellow, which we're so thrilled to have Anna with us. She's originally from Colombia. She's down in Berkeley right now, and she's here to assist with any Spanish translations that are needed. And please feel free to reach out to her directly. So awesome group of cohort facilitators. Some quick housekeeping. The open office hours. We went and sent out a bunch of calendar invitations to all of you, and we didn't do a good job of first saying, hey, you're going to get a bunch of calendar invitations. What those were, those are sessions that are open office hours with mentors. You can accept them, you can decline them if you want them out of your calendar, but those are meant for you to be able to have opportunities outside of these sessions to connect with mentors, ask questions about your homework or anything else that you want to talk about. Those are the times to do that. And then Slack. Hopefully all of you received the invitation. This is the tool that we not only use internally on our team, but it's a great way to interact with your fellow cohort members. Many of you are already engaging, so thank you for doing that. There's 2 channels. One is the entire RAINmaker channel, and then there's the one that you were invited in specifically for your cohort. That would be the one where you ask questions to your fellow cohort. If you have something you want to share with the whole cohort, all 140 of you, then you can put that in the entire RAINmaker channel. And then there's a resource folder in a Google Drive. This is where you'll access all of your homework, your slides, everything that you'll hear from Corey and Jill today. There's videos, there's other resources that we're posting in there. If you have resources you want us to share, please post them in there as well. And then here's just a glance at what the open office hours and open office hours and mentor hours looks like and who's the lead on that. Again, you will have received a calendar invite for each of these. If you accidentally deleted one and you want to be re-invited back, just reach out to one of us on the team and we'll make sure that you're added back in. And then just real quickly, because a few of you weren't on last time, just want to let people know who we are. We are a nonprofit. We've been around since 2014, and we exist to do 3 things. One is to catalyze the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Oregon. Next is to connect entrepreneurs to resources. That includes overlooked entrepreneurs. And then also contribute to the creation of prosperous economies, which right now, obviously, there's a lot of challenges in the economy. And so we're really excited to be able to provide programs like this and bring lots of great partners together. We also couldn't do it without funding, right? We're a nonprofit, and so we receive funding from all of these cities, counties, private foundations, federal government, and several individuals who have stepped up to put money into funding the program. And specifically this program, I want to give a big shout out to Banner Bank, Peak Internet, and also the Lynn Benton SBDC and the Lane SBDC, including the community colleges, for really stepping up to help with this program. So thank you all. And then these are individuals who actually took money out of their own bank account to put in towards funding this accelerator. And what's really great, you guys, is last session, I mentioned that we had raised 2,000. We are now up to 8,000 so far. And this is going to be actual cash prize money that we're going to have at the end. I do want to remind everybody that in order to be eligible for any of the prizes, you do have to attend at least 8 of the 10 sessions and do all of the homework. We're not checking the homework, but doing the homework means you complete it, you upload it into the Google Drive. And so it's really important that you do that because we want to make sure that this is a fair process and that folks are really engaged. So the other thing I want to mention before we start to hand it back to your breakout sessions is right now we're working on a grant to Business Oregon. And we hope to get this. So this slide is a pending slide. And what we're proposing to Business Oregon is that every single one of you who make it through the program, so the program ends mid-September. So mid-September through the end of the calendar year, December, what we're wanting to do is get funds so that all of you could run Facebook and or Google ads that would, work with you, work with consultants who would help you create ads that convert, then design you a landing page that ad would link to, and then make sure that landing page is optimized so that you move into conversion, whatever conversion might mean for you. It might mean people signing up for a newsletter. It might be buying your product. It might be making a phone call or a video call with you. Whatever that might be, we want to work with you on that. And then also helping you decipher the analytics behind that and then tweak the ads and the landing page based on that. So again, I want to clarify that this is pending. We're hoping to get this funding. We should find out mid-August if we get that, but that would be a really cool benefit for the graduates of this RAINmaker program. So we're really working on that for you guys. And then I also want to thank all the mentors. You're going to get to meet them all. Some of them are joining different cohorts today, and then many of them are joining those open office hours. So just a big shout out. Wave if you're one of the mentors on the screen so that folks get to see who you are. Thank you all so much for sharing your time and talent with this group. And then also, as you guys know, we lined up an incredible group of expert speakers. Many of them are actually on this call today, and they're here to help you. And none of them are getting paid to do that, which is really awesome. And then those of you who remember, last session, we had Seth, the founder and former CEO of Tofurkey on. And he also just published a book, and it's really selling like wild turkey. And he wanted to donate one signed copy to this group, which I thought was pretty special of him to do. And here's how we're going to do this. And Jill, we didn't give you the heads up on this, but this is what I'm hoping that you will do. I want you to pick a number from 0 to 100 and just send it to me in chat. So don't send it to everyone, just select me from the drop down and put your number in the chat. And then once I see that number, I will let everybody know when Jill has done that. And oh, there she is. She's got a number in there. Thank you. So now what I want you guys to do is all put in and try and guess what that number is. So we're just going to give it a minute, and then whoever guesses it or gets closest to it will win the book. And I want to remind you, if you don't want this book, if this isn't something you're going to read, don't participate in adding your number. We really want this to go to someone who's excited about it. So I'm going to give it about 10 seconds. All right, we've got a lot of numbers coming in here. This is great. Okay, so let's see who, oh, we have a couple more, and then we're gonna put a close to it because we need to move forward. Okay, so the closest one is,
there's 2 exact that I saw.
There are 2 exact.
Mm-hmm.
I saw 2 that were tie, that were 1 off from your number.
I see.
Oh no, I do. I see. Yes. So, okay. So Lisa, Linnell Olson, and Adrian Fritz, you guys got it exact. So what we're going to do is ask Seth to give 2 copies.
And Tanya.
Oh, and Tanya. Okay. Well, there we go. So we will see if we can get 3 copies of the book for you guys. So thank you, Jill, for doing that. Thank you guys for participating. That was really fun. So next week's session is actually going to be led by yours truly. One of the things that I really enjoy doing is market sizing. So today you're going to really focus on who that customer is. And then next session, we're going to talk about, well, how many of that customer exists. And even if you've already been working in existing markets, right now markets have shifted. So we really need to figure out, is your market still the same? Is the size still the same? Do they still want to be communicated the same? And then I have a fun worksheet called a TAM, SAM, SOM worksheet, which you'll fill out. And what's really cool is after you fill the worksheet out, it helps you project your revenue for the next 3 years in a really easy, friendly way to do revenue projections. So please join us for that next week. And with that, we are going to have you all move into your breakout sessions. So I will see you on the flip side, and then we'll see you back in about 20 minutes. So at this point, I want to hand it over to and introduce Jill and Corey. So first, I'm going to read a little bit about their short bios, and then Jill is going to be the first to share her screen. So Jill Nelson, I mean, what a gift that we have you with us today. Before she joined Elevate Capital as a general partner, she founded Ruby Receptionist, which is ruby.com. I highly recommend you guys check it out. And she grew it to 630 employees. And this is in Portland, you guys. And over 10,000 customers before handing over the reins recently. And under her leadership, Ruby holds the record-breaking position as one of Oregon's fastest growing companies for 13 consecutive years, which is super, super impressive and not easy to do, because what you're gonna see is she did that hockey stick growth that we all really aspire to, when those of us who have done pitch decks. And she's repeatedly named top 5 place to work in the United States by Fortune magazine. She was Pacific Northwest 2017 Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year, very much deserved, and was named the 2017 Oregon Technology Executive of the Year. And she was also the first woman to receive that recognition. So let's do a quick, round of applause, wave your hands or whatever for Jill. We're really excited to have Jill. And Jill, before I hand it over to you, I'm just going to introduce Corey real quickly so that you guys can do a smooth handoff. Corey is on our team here at Oregon RAIN, and he's the dedicated venture catalyst serving Lynn and Benton counties. He serves 9 to 10 different cities there. He graduated from OSU with a degree in chemistry and is the founder and CEO of Massive Games, which is a game publishing startup. He makes these really cool, innovative 3D products. It's like a mountain. It's a board game with a mountain. It's really cool, and he sells it to customers all over the globe, and has sales experience selling in different countries as well. And he successfully raised money for the company through multiple crowdfunding campaigns. He's really good at that. He's actually currently known for holding the most successful crowdfunding campaign in Corvallis. He raised almost $200,000 in pre-orders from 2,000 people across 50 countries. So you've got some good sales experts with you here today. So with that, I'll hand it over to you, Jill, if you want to share your screen and move into your presentation. Thank you for joining us.
You got it. It's really nice to be here, everybody. And I appreciate the kind introduction. Hopefully, people can see my screen. Can just show hands. Okay, all right. You see me on the screen. And I appreciated the intro, because when I started sales, listening to you guys today, talking about doing your homework and making those sales calls, that is one call more than I was willing to make. I had an idea. I wanted to help small business, and I wanted to help them by being their receptionist remotely. And I cobbled up some technology into an old sculptor studio and really just set about going, I have no idea how I'm going to get these customers. But if I could get them, I have a feeling that they will find it really useful. That's about as far as I got. I had no RAINmaker Accelerator to attend to, super naive, really unwilling to read business books, just wanted to dig right in. I think if anything, maybe the drive and ambition perhaps made up for my unwillingness to make that cold call. So it probably comes as a bit of a surprise to you that indeed we did grow, and we grew just dramatically year over year, as Caroline mentioned. And by the time I left late last year, Ruby was serving over 10,000 customers, and we were handling and being the recipient and answering well over 50,000 phone calls every single day. So you might ask yourself, well, okay, how is that possible? How is it possible that you could go from just a little tiny business to and serving customers all over the United States with almost no budget whatsoever to get to over $60 million of recurring revenue every year? Well, what I didn't have in sales willingness, I did have in this real passion about helping the customers that I wanted to help. And so actually Caroline, I have to admit, first asked me when she approached me, she's like, hey, we're doing this sales accelerator. I'd love for you to be the keynote speaker to kick everything off. And I said, well, actually, I really hated selling. And so she was like, and after I just was like, I hated selling so much. My whole business was modeled around, well, if I can just keep customers happy, and I have a subscription business, then they won't quit and they'll tell other people and they will do the selling for me. And she's like, all right, then you need to come into week 2, which is really all about that customer and really identifying what it is you're doing for them and being able to communicate that in a way that drives revenue. So that's me. I am really all about the customer and super proud to be Oregon's record holder for consecutive years on the fastest growing companies list. So today, while I absolutely have learned that making those phone calls really is the best thing you can do and being really bold, if you're bringing something to the table of value, you are doing that person a service by reaching out to them and interrupting their day because you may just have that very thing that solves a pain point for them. So I am in no way, shape, or form advocating that you grow your business the way that I did. You'll get a little something out of what I have to share with you. So the evolution of Ruby, as I got to grow, went from 4 of us that were really no business experience whatsoever to over 600 people. And of those 600 people, lots of really experienced marketers, a wonderful product team, and a fabulous director of user experience that really helped continue to match what it is we were doing and who we were doing it for and ensuring that we were delivering value. So I'll get right into what we're talking about the evolution of that customer persona, figuring out who it was we served and why we served them. We'll start with sort of evolution phase number 1, which was just making customers happy. I really thought we serve small business. You might think small business is a customer segment, but technically that's over 30 million businesses. And I know Caroline's doing a TAM, SAM, something else, a new concept to me too, next week, but that's a huge, huge, huge business and a huge, huge customer segment. Are all similar in their needs and their drives and their pain points and their fears is quite naive. But that's where we started. It was any business. That's about as specific as we got, and we just wanted to make them happy. And I really thought at first that what I was doing was taking a function off the plate of a small business owner that was very busy. And that was what I went to sell it for. But as I started to hear back from customers and hear some of these quotes, and for any of you that are having trouble, perhaps if the text is small on your screen, I believe the deck will be shared later too, so you'll have this to look over. But as I started to read and hear directly from customers, I wasn't hearing a lot of efficiency talk. I was hearing, wow, you guys are really nice. You're taking care of my customers, which are so important to me. And that just takes a load off my mind. It gives me peace of mind. Everyone that I talked to was just really about the reason they hired Ruby is their customers were really important to them. They were the most important thing. And so actually our marketing message and our value prop started to evolve immediately because what I thought I was bringing to the customer was actually technically the same thing, but what they were getting out of it and the pain point that was solving was completely different. It wasn't about efficiency. It was about actually winning our customers' business and delivering a great experience to their valued customers. So that was a really important sort of phase 1 lesson. But from there, as we grew and grew along, started to understand that 30 million small businesses, that's a lot of businesses. And as we grew to maybe 1,000 customers, it was evident that clearly it wasn't 30 million businesses that were looking to find Ruby. And we started to do something with segmentation and started with some really basic demographic stuff. And we took the customers we had and we were like, oh, gosh, I never realized actually that there are specific industries that use Ruby much more heavily than others. For example, we grew our customer base to over 40% legal and small offices, small family law offices, before really even recognizing that actually we are a very specific solution for the law practice. Same thing with financial services. And then geographically, it was really interesting how we noticed that the bigger the city, the more prevalence, even disproportionately we were, and we started to think, gosh, we were a real savings because in cities where real estate and hiring and employing were very cost prohibitive for small businesses, we were a much better solution. So that was something else as we started to think about how do we reach these 30 million businesses? Well, actually, it's businesses in these industries and these cities. And then finally, of course, well, we said small business can be anything. It can be the solo hobbyist that incorporated to do something on their own that is completely independent of employees and perhaps even face-to-face customers. I think the SBA includes businesses with 500 employees. Well, we are smack dab in the 1 to call it 20 employees. And once we were able to segment that and really look at the kind of businesses that came to us, we're like, gosh, there's a segment of true solos, and then there's really those core small businesses that go up to 10 employees. So we really started to narrow down who our customers were. They weren't just any small business. They were specific industries, specific cities, and specific company sizes. So that was the next sort of phase of learning, but still, what do you do with that? Obviously you can say, okay, well, when we go to market, when we call on people, we can look, pay for lists and these criteria, and we can call on them. But come to find out, there's more to it that you can do. So even though we perform the same function to every one of the companies that use us, the different features and the different benefits and the different pain points actually varied pretty significantly from industry to industry. For example, we learned that our law customers really were about a missed call is a missed opportunity for business. One phone call could be, a $30,000 case. And certainly a solo law lawyer doesn't want to answer their own phone. They need to be billing their own time. So the key messaging that we learned attorneys really resonated with was, missed calls or missed opportunities, and let's help you get that exceptional reputation and professionalism at a great price. We sound like we're in your office. And then with lawyers, started to really use the terms and language that attorneys use as well. So something that I knew nothing about, but while we take messages for many of our customers, for attorneys, they wanted us to have intake forms, which is really just a very long message asking more questions than you would typically. But by understanding, listening to attorneys and not just hearing what their pain points were and what they wanted out of us, but even the language they use, helped us start really craft the marketing message. So the construction industry, very different. They, turns out, they're not in their office very often, they're out in the field. And so our telephony features and the ability we gave customers to be able to be on a job and not worry about missing another one was really important to the construction industry. Also, we found out people in the construction industry do not like losing business to their competitors. So that became a key message for us. So that freedom to work anywhere, be more productive, rise above the competition, those are all things that as we really started to get to know that industry, were just examples of same features and benefits that Ruby provided to the legal industry, but just crafted and honed very specifically for construction. Similar In finance, it was really about customers were really clients, and they're not customers in the finance industry. Financial planners have clients. They're often high net worth individuals, and they're very important. So those messages for the financial planners was really about, we build trust, we make great first impressions, we give an exceptional client experience. That is what is important to the financial planners, which were a significant portion of Ruby's business. And then finally, real estate is one more example. Similar thing, client experiences are very important, but also realtors are out in the field, out and about. And so that ability to, work from anywhere and be in control, we found was very important to real estate. So there's just 4 examples of how you can take your customer segmentation and not only narrow down where your marketing dollars are spent and where your sales focus are, but really start to take your own message and craft it specifically for the industry and the segment you're serving by understanding their pain points, their frustrations, their hopes, and their fears, and combine it with the language that they use to craft that message for them. So that's sort of like evolution, maybe number 3. I mean, we grew pretty rapidly and gained knowledge along the way as we grew. And when we finally got to a point in 2015, where we had a full product team and new business was really important. But when you have thousands and thousands and thousands of customers that pay you every month, additionally, retention is super important. And so as we built out the Ruby technology, our technology allowed the receptionist to sound just like we were in the office, but the app for our customers also allowed them to really control Ruby. And we built things like integrations to their law practice management software. We integrated with their calendars on their iPhones or their Androids. We integrated with their contacts so that the receptionist would know, oh, this is someone that our client knows. We would be able to know if someone was available to take a call. And as we added features and we talked about usage and we really started a true customer success practice, it wasn't just about what do we need to know about our customers so that they will come to us. It's how can we help them be more successful in their daily lives, and how can we evolve our product and services to ensure that they stay with us and that we're delivering on our value proposition. And as we eventually even bought companies to add value to the customers, these customer personas became very important. And I know you guys are going to do a customer persona exercise very soon. This one, this cautious Carol, I have 2 to share, and they're probably pretty challenging to read everything that's on the page, but these are 2 personas that were done by our UX team. They actually did many in-depth personal interviews, and these are actual sort of merging of various personality, fears, like industries that created a theme amongst our customer base. So at the end of the day, even understanding personality types, the personality section on the left is really just a Myers-Briggs sort of analysis, but understanding really what the daily life beyond just how our business serves them in that moment, but what's the bigger picture, even beyond for a small business owner, even beyond their small business life. Of course, we know real life also comes into play, and how do those things affect what is important to them in their daily life. So this hopefully, I won't spend too much time on it, it's just a lot of words, but you can kind of see like really how in depth we got to truly understand our customer, that we can truly be valuable. And I'll just end the talk today, and hopefully I've left some time for some questions. But going back to the very beginning, before I knew about customer personas, before I knew about market segmentation and really honing a value prop, it really was always about how do we ensure that we're making a difference in our customers and their customers' lives. And so it's something that we embedded throughout the culture. And we encourage people to go beyond just answering the phone, to really reach out and help our customers. So this is the result of that. One of the many Ruby stories that we have. A receptionist took a call for an attorney who had bought some new chickens, and that the chicken vendor was calling our customer to tell them that their chickens were ready to pick up. So the receptionist went above and beyond and sent that attorney a chicken, like I guess she had chickens too, because you know it's Portland and you have chickens in the city. And she sent them like a care package, like a starter kit for chickens. And this attorney sent me a letter on embossed letterhead, really letting us know that this receptionist had made such a difference in this person's day, that the way that we serve our customer really isn't just about being the receptionist. That made him feel like he wasn't alone and he was able to do the work that he really needed to do. So this is like perfect example of when you really are hitting it on all levels, you're delivering on that value proposition, you can go beyond just providing a service and really make a difference in the life of your customers. And that is my talk, and I am really hopeful that I left at least a minute to take a question or two.
Absolutely. Does anyone want to put a couple of questions in the chat? Thank you so much, Jill. That is awesome what people are typing. I hope you guys were all listening, because I am constantly telling entrepreneurs, focus, narrow down. You're not selling to everyone, you're selling to particular people. So, you know, having a multi-million-dollar company is hopefully good motivation to listen to your advice and your strategies there. So it looks like there's a question from Leslie. Could you talk just a bit more about your early marketing strategies?
Absolutely. And so being 2003, while I was not a huge fan of picking up the phone, I had the advantage of Google AdWords being brand new. So we had some really, really inexpensive Google pay-per-click. And then I did do a direct mail very, very early once, and it was actually to attorneys. But what I found was really economical was figuring out where our customers went. And so, for example, bar associations, attorneys went there when they started new practices, look for help. Sometimes they had to attend certain classes if they got complaints because they weren't answering their phone. So we would partner with bar associations and provide a discount to their members, and then we would participate in their events and do speaking engagements, and they would allow us to market to their customer base with emails. So really figuring out, and I think the modern day equivalent to that too is influencers. So like our customers, we have this one guy who runs the Roofer podcast, and if he tells his listeners to do something, they do it. I'm a huge fan of Ruby, and so we had this run on roofers signing up for Ruby service. So so that, you know, so engaging with the organizations and people that our customers look up to, that was really, really big. And that was an early thing. The other thing that really helped us, that whole thing about keeping our customers happy, the referral business, I mean, it was from 2003 to 2009, I didn't even have a marketing person. I had one salesperson, inside sales, only because referral was that strong. Referral, even today, is our #1 source of new customers. So when you deliver on your brand promise and you deliver something that's super valuable, word spreads.
Awesome. Thanks, Jill. And I know there's several other questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to take those, and then we'll see if Jill has some time later this week. We'll do a sort of take all your questions and see her answers to some of them and combine them and make sure you get some responses. And I'm sure Jill might hang around and talk in the chat as well with you guys. So thank you, Jill, so much. We're really honored and excited that you were able to join us today.
Thanks for having me, and best of luck to everybody.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the second half of this lecture. How do we implement this? What are some practical tools that we can use? First of all, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Wright, venture capitalist with Ord & Rain. I'm also an entrepreneur. I've got a company called Massive Games, and then another venture called Massive Ventures that holds all my other ventures and ideas. But the point is, I love entrepreneurship. I'm passionate about entrepreneurship. And I hope that what I share today has all been based off of my experience and my mistakes. And so I hope that you can learn from that. And we're also going to cover homework topics, and we'll have some room at the end for questions and networking. So let's see if my widget works. Okay, great. So understand that customer. You have to understand your customer. You got to dig deep with a microscope and see who are they really, what motivates them, what drives them, how do you create true value. And if you don't know who they are, you're gonna have a really hard time marketing to them, not to mention trying to actually sell something to them. Not knowing your customer is one of the most common mistakes that I see in new businesses, and even honestly, a lot of existing businesses. They think they know who they are, but they haven't actually gone out and talked to people and made sure they know who they are. And in the era of COVID-19, with so many things changing, like our culture is literally changing in the last 5 months. People are doing things differently. People are thinking differently. Values have changed. Reevaluating and looking and knowing who your customer is going to be critical to pivot your business and move forward. So, these are some of the mistakes that I often see is like, one, your customer who isn't who you actually think they are. Often business owners don't even want to talk to their customers. They're like, oh, they'll just come buy my stuff. I don't need to engage with them. They think, well, this is for startups. A lot of my friends and family like this idea. My customers will probably like it too, right? Or like, I see the value in what I'm making, because of course you do, you love it. So everyone else is going to like it too. A big no-no is like, oh, I'll just lower my price. Then people will buy it. That's typically the last thing you want to do. You want to see how you can maximize your price by reaching the target customer, that ideal person. Your customers aren't necessarily going to come to you. And this is one that if you're an existing business, like once you've started to grow and you have a decent customer base, you're like, well, I'm successful, we're doing good. I can stop talking to them. I can stop knowing their feelings and their thoughts. And again, especially in situations like COVID, you really got to reconsider that and make sure you're continuing to do something that I like to call customer discovery. It's a process typically used, especially in the startup stage, but any business that is pivoting and looking at how do we shift our marketing strategies can use customer discovery. And it's my opinion that all businesses should constantly be doing customer discovery. You should always be discovering more things about your customer and how they think and how they act. So customer discovery, simply put, is the process of getting to know your customer. It focuses on validating your assumptions, what you think you know about your customer, with actual data. And the key point is it requires you to get outside of the physical walls of your business, not just be stuck working on your idea, trying to sell your stuff with your team, but actually getting outside, talking to real live people and seeing what they're saying. And as I mentioned before, with this COVID-19 impact, some of you need to get to re-know your customers. What you had yesterday might not be true today. And so it's really important to continue to engage and see what your customers' motivations are. Understand that psyche and those emotional things and those personalities like Jill talked about.
Hey, Corey, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Your slides aren't advancing on my end if you have been advancing your slides.
Okay.
They are advancing on my end.
Oh, okay. Strange.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to do a little test quiz here. Hopefully I didn't just ruin it because I tried to check my slides. But in the chat, real quick, I want you to try to guess what car manufacturer I'm describing with these phrases. I want you to put your guess here in the chat. So Italian made, bright colors, starts with the letter F, small and light, sports car, okay? All right, bunch of things coming in. A lot of people obviously saw my slides advance, or they looked at the slides before, probably. Mostly it looks like Ferrari, some people saying Fiat. Okay, so yeah, I could be describing either of these cars. They're both bright colors. They're both Italian made. They both, believe it or not, make sports cars. I didn't know this until I was researching it, but Fiat makes a sports car. And so the words that you use to describe your product are actually pretty important, because if you're Ferrari and you use just the words that I did on this slide, like maybe people are thinking Fiat, or if you're Fiat and you use those words, maybe everyone's thinking Ferrari and they don't even want to look at your price point, right? So knowing your customer and even just the language and the words that they use is really critical. And so I'm going to butcher this. If someone else here is Italian, you can try to correct me, but chi è il tuo cliente, right? Like, who is your customer? It's a really important question. And so what I like to do is I like to use something called bootstrap marketing to it's basically hustling to build community and learn about your customers. So it's a simple process. You meet them, you listen to them, you evaluate what they're telling you, and then you develop, pivot, or scrap either your marketing strategy, or if you're a startup, your value proposition design, your product, your MVP that you're trying to make. So the goal of this is to define your unique value proposition from your customer's perspective, right? You may think something is valuable because of this, but your customers might be using it because of that. And you want to make sure that this and that line up, if that makes sense. You want to be able to define your market, and Caroline's going to talk about that more next week with Tam Sam Song, how to reach your market and how to communicate with them. Because the more you get out and meet your customers, you learn what words they use, you learn what social platforms they're on, you learn what kind of people they are, you learn where they live. And it really helps you define all of these things, and then be able to create customer personas, which we'll talk about, and how big is this market and how do we speak to these customers. So the first thing is go meet your customer. This slide is when I first started Massive Games, I for some reason thought it would be a great idea to take my prototype and show it at a local farmer's market in Corvallis. Now, having been in the board game industry for nearly 5 years, I know that is the worst place to try to go sell copies. But I learned so much because I made my first sale for $100 here, where someone came up and bought it and said, hey, I want to give this to my son who's a climber in the Himalayas. And I was like, oh, maybe I can sell to people who are passionate about outdoor stuff and enjoy board games. And like, I learned from that mistake, if you will, of trying to sell board games in a farmer's market by just getting out there. So the first point is get out there, try something. Obviously, you can probably make some better choices than I did trying to do board games at a farmer's market, but you have to start somewhere. And the only way you're going to be able to validate that is by showing people what you have and getting unbiased feedback, whether you're existing business or startup. Make sure you're showing people everything you offer and asking them about it. So there's a lot of ways to get out there, and you can be pretty creative. Here's some of them. You can look these over in slides. There's online videos, there's newsletters, there's chamber events, there's social groups, right? Lots of ways to get out and talk to potential customers. Trade shows are a good one. And so I want you, as I'm talking in the Zoom chat, tell me 1 or 2 places or ways that you'll go meet your customer. Obviously, COVID-19, not a lot of physical meetings happening these days, but everyone's on Zoom. Everyone's doing virtual things. So think about how you could go meet your customer this week. The other thing that I want you to do, and this is going to be part of your homework, is think about trade shows or conventions to attend in 2020. Now you might be thinking, Corey, you're crazy. All the major trade shows and conventions have been canceled. That's not necessarily the case. In fact, in my industry, some of the largest trade shows in the world for games are now going virtual, which means where I would have had to pay $1,000 for a booth, $2,000 for a plane ticket, and another $1,000 for hotel, gas, all of that, I can now pay like $600 and have a virtual booth at the world's biggest game trade show if I wanted to. So you might actually have an advantage in being able to go to some trade event that normally happens in Seattle or in New York or whatever, because everything's virtual. And these are great places to meet and talk to customers and other people in your industry and see what they're doing, how they're reacting, what are they doing to market to your customer segments. Okay, step number 2, listen to your customer. I've been all around the world demoing my products, and I meet lots of interesting people. Some of them are a little crazy, some of them are a little scary, but if you listen, you can learn a lot of things. So this lady here, when she first comes, she was very loud, almost borderline obnoxious, and I was like, oh great, another one that I'm just gonna, hope they leave my booth so they don't scare away all my normal customers. Well, no, she turned out to be super nice. She's an Instagram person from the UK. She has over 1,000 Instagram followers specific to board games. And she was a great connection. I ended up sending her review copies, all of that. So make sure you take the time to actually listen to people and get their feedback. The other thing you can do is like provide a way for your customers to give you feedback. I would do play test reports for all of our games. So people could say some basic demographic information, and then did they like the game? What didn't they like? How much would they pay for it if you're a startup? What would you want to do next as an expansion if you're an existing business, right? Like there's a lot of fun, easy ways that will only take 30 seconds for a customer to give you really great insight into your business. So one of the other things you're going to do on your homework assignment is you're going to create a customer discovery questionnaire. So you're going to talk about, or you're going to create something that helps you discover and learn about your customers. And there's an example that I have in your homework appendix, but I always like to start really broad with broad questions about the main thing that my customer is trying to do, and then narrow it down into relevant questions about your specific product or business or service, right? So don't be like, oh, how much would you pay for this? Would you still buy this in COVID-19? Don't start there. Start with, what's your biggest challenge right now in using X in COVID-19? What are you trying to do in this area? What's your biggest pain point? And by doing that, you can learn more about the motivations of your customer and get a sense of maybe even how you pivot your business or your marketing strategy to adapt to what their needs are. So the third thing you do is you evaluate the data, right? You need to listen to everyone. You need to think, what are people saying? Are you hearing from outliers or majorities? If your mom's telling you, oh, I think you should do this and this, but your mom's not your target customer, maybe you shouldn't listen to your mom. Kids, did you hear that? But on the flip side, if it's like a major fan who follows all of your social media channels, who loves what you do, and they're giving you this feedback and you're hearing it over and over again, then that's probably data that you want to think about, right? Does what you're learning about your customers match your current brand strategy, your marketing strategy, your sales channels, right? Like if I have a bright red, a bright orange logo for my business and everyone's telling me how much they hate the color orange, maybe I should change my logo colors and my branding and like adapt to meet the customer segment that I'm really focusing on. So the point is collect data in a way you can actually evaluate it and then see, does this make sense with my market, with my brand, and with my sales channels? What's the language my customers are using? How are they talking about what I do? What are their personalities? So finally, you develop, pivot, or scrap. Okay, pretty simple. You look at that data that you collect, you develop it, and you improve things. You're like, okay, people like the color orange for my logo, but they don't like the M shape. Maybe we redesign our logo. That's a really simple, basic example. A bigger one might be like, well, actually everyone discovered us using Instagram and nobody cares about the stuff we post on Facebook. Maybe you scrap Facebook and you focus all of your energy into Instagram ads and letting users have an awesome experience on that platform, right? But again, you develop it further based on what your customers are telling you. Pivot, change the fundamentals of how you market. Maybe you swap social platforms or content type. Maybe you realize the customer segment you thought you were selling to isn't every single small business in America, like Jill talked about. It's the lawyers and it's these private firms, right? And so then you switch to focusing on them. You switch to changing your content to meet their language and their needs and their desires, and you adapt. Finally, scrap, right? Don't spend time or money on a business that's not providing value or a marketing strategy that's not resonating or working. Obviously, you want to make sure you're doing your marketing right, and we'll obviously learn more about that as this accelerator progresses. But have metrics that you can look at, and if those metrics aren't making sense, if you're spending $100 a month on Facebook ads and your conversion rate is like one customer and your customer's lifetime value is $50, probably not where you want to be spending your money marketing. And likewise, if everyone's telling you post COVID-19, we don't need your product anymore, it's not relevant to us, like right? This can be a harder decision, and the RAIN team is definitely here to help you with this one, but maybe you need to do a new business or wind things down, right? The worst thing you want to do is throw away years of your life and all your money at something that's not working, at least in my opinion. Some people might enjoy that, but like, I don't want to have a business that's not providing value for people, because that's not truly a business. So bootstrap marketing, you know, it's pretty simple. Meet your customer, listen to what they're saying, evaluate the data there, and then see if it makes sense with what you're currently doing. Helps you learn about your customer. And as you get out and talk to your customers, you'll learn how to communicate them. You learn that language. You learn if you say Italian made or if you say custom made, right? Examples like that. So one of the great things that you can do with the data that you collect once you've gone out and talked to your customers and listened to them is use customer personas. Customer personas are just a simple tool that helps you bring your customer segments to life. It gives you a real person to think about and to visualize as you're creating marketing content or as you're developing your product. And so visualizing the data you collect and then developing future marketing and strategies based on that can be really useful. And again, don't trust your assumptions. I'm going to show you an example that I made, and I put some assumptions in there, right? Like, I would really need to go talk to the person for my customer persona and make sure everything I'm putting there is true. This week, you're going to do some customer discovery. You're going to create some customer personas. Some of your stuff will be assumptions, and that's okay. You just need to remember to go validate that and make sure it's actually true, and make sure these customer personas are up to date. So, by the way, these are also a great tool for telling a story in pitches, if some of you are raising funding, or in marketing content. It helps you sort of visualize the people that you're selling to. I like to use it when I tell stories in investor pitches. I like to say, here is Jim. Jim is trying to do this. He's my customer. He hates how this happens to him. Boom, here's how we solve his problem. So they can be great for things like that. So there's a lot of different data that you can include in a customer persona, and you're going to see a lot of different templates and examples if you search online. And I don't know if any necessarily one is correct or wrong per se. You need to do what works for you and what works for your industry. But in the Oregon Rain homework folder, we have a little appendix, a template that you can use. You can print it out and write things in it, draw a little stick figure of your customer, or you're welcome to make a nicer one. We have some populated things that I think work really well with the homework and with what Jill talked about, but you can modify this if you want to. Basically, you're going to fill all this data in. This is one that I did for a customer, a real person named Rebecca Strauss, female in Leipzig, Germany. Some of this data is accurate. I was able to use it from my MailChimp, which has great analytics. Some of it, like, I came up with myself, and I would actually need to go validate. So I'm not going to read everything on this slide, but it's available in your homework folder if you want to get an example of each of these things. Persona summary. What's the basic gist of this customer? Interest behaviors. What do they enjoy? How do they act? What do they care about? Influences. What things influence how they spend or buy in my industry? Media brands. What things are popular to them? Where do they tend to look at, and how do they identify with certain brands? Fears. These are really important. So fears, aspirations, frustrations, and wants and needs. This is going to be a critical thing to really dig deep and look into in your customer discovery, because Jill made an awesome exercise that helps you take the data from this and then develop marketing content based off of knowing your customers' major fears, what they aspire to, what frustrates them, and what their wants and needs are. And then as you're doing customer discovery, write down those common words or expressions. For me in the game industry, it was modular design, asymmetric character play, and a well-implemented theme. For you guys, if you're not a board gamer, that probably doesn't mean diddly squat to you. But for my customers, those are big words that, like, oh, really, it's modular design? Oh, so I can play this thousands of times and have a completely different game experience? Great, I want it, right? So look at what words your customers use and make sure you track those down. So your homework exercise, your biggest homework exercise this week is going to be developing those two customer personas and using customer discovery to learn about them and validate that. And then what I'd love for you to do is to share a customer persona. You can just do one or you can do both. in the Slack channel, in your cohort, or if you want in the main RAINmaker channel, for everyone else to see what you came up with and how you designed yours. I think it'd be really cool. I think a bunch of you are really creative, and I'd love to see how you did this exercise. Another thing that you can do if you want, and if you are able to collect a good amount of customer data, or if you already have it, is create a cool word cloud. So a word cloud is basically you assign weights to different words that your customers tend to use when they talk about your business or your product, and see what are the major ones that pop out. For me, it was modular, it was creative, unique, spiel de jahres, things like that. So you want to see what words do your customers use when they describe your brand or your product. There's a website called wordclouds.com. There's also a bazillion others. Find one that works for you, or use word clouds. Or if you have another idea or a way to create them, that's cool, or you write your own program for it, share that with the rest of the cohort in the Slack channels, because I'd love to see what else you guys come up with. Finally, what you're going to do, your last homework exercise, is you're going to take all of this information that you discovered to craft the perfect marketing messages. So Jill came up with this exercise. It's awesome. I really like it. Remember how we talked about fears, aspirations, frustrations, wants, and needs? Well, you can then take that and create a message that speaks to each of those emotional issues, right? And then you can even refine that for different types of customer segments, because a certain vertical, like lawyers, for example, might have different fears and aspirations than maybe financial investors, right? And so you want to make sure your message is tailored for who you're targeting. I know I've been going over a lot of stuff really fast, so I'm almost done. Bear with me. I want to make sure we end on time because it's almost 10:30. But just to do a quick homework summary, you're going to design a customer discovery questionnaire. Super simple. How do you just learn more about your customers? You're going to figure out where you're going to meet your customers, and then you're going to meet them virtually or however it works given our current circumstances. Look for some trade shows, then create 2 customer personas, okay? Share at least one of them. And in your homework folder, there's a bunch of resources. So there's some websites, some HTML links. There is a YouTube video. There is a link for a site, I think by HubSpot, that Caroline found, that actually helps you create customer personas if you want to do it on a browser. And create those customer personas. That's the main theme that we're looking for from you this week. And then also, if you want to, you can create a word cloud. Then use all of that information that you discover in your customer personas, because what is the point of persona if you just have it and you don't actually use it, right? Use that information you discover to start crafting marketing messages based on your customers' fears, aspirations, frustrations, and wants and needs. And there's an entire 2-page appendix, Appendix C, in your homework that goes through this. Yeah, someone had a question about the homework, so I will let Caroline answer that in just a sec. But I did want to remind everyone, don't forget to be using Slack. The purpose of using Slack for this, I know you guys are like, wait, another digital platform, really? Do we have to? Is to basically take advantage of the brain power of everyone attending this course. Because some people have already done customer personas. I was talking to some of them yesterday in our mentor group. Some people haven't, right? So each of you have strengths and weaknesses in different areas. And the goal is that you guys help each other, share best practices, share your challenges. And of course, you can always reach out to any of your cohort leaders at any time. Just use the @ symbol to pull up our name, and then you'll tag us and we can respond to questions as well. I know there had been some confusion about mentor hours. And so just to make it super clear, 2 things. One, in every single week 1, week 2, week 3 folder, there's a PDF that has the mentor hours and it has a Zoom link for whichever one you want to join, okay? And then these are all of them here. You're not required to attend all of them. Pick and choose the ones you like or the times that best work for you. But the point is, we want to be available as a team, each of the cohort leaders, to help you out and make sure you have a chance to discuss the homework, share what you're working on, and ask any other questions that you have. Oh, and there's a mistake on this. It's correct in the PDF, but Stephanie's mentors hours are actually Mondays at 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. So sorry about that. We'll update that in the slides. Yeah, and you just show up. You don't need to sign up or anything like that. Just show up in the Zoom link and we'll get it going. So questions, comments, and I'll let Caroline take it from there. But if you do need to leave, you're welcome to do so at this time. But for those of you who want to remain, we're going to stick around and we're happy to hang out and answer questions and chat and network. So that was a lot. I know I went really fast. Thank you all. Let me know what your thoughts are. Caroline?
Yes, awesome. Thank you, Corey, and thank you, Jill. Really appreciate you guys taking time to put this content together for us and share it. It's super valuable. Hopefully everybody got something out of it, and sometimes people get different things out of it. So that's the joy of the cohort. Lots of questions about the homework. So we will follow up with specific instructions on how to share your homework, but I do want to say it's not required. You don't need to do it in order to get like your certificate of completion. However, if you want to be considered for the prizes at the end, the cash and the potential, you know, assistance with digital marketing, the Google, Facebook ads, the landing page, the analytics, and the conversion assistance that, again, if we get that grant, we'll know mid-August, as I mentioned, you do need to submit your homework, and we will give you instructions on exactly how to do that. We won't be checking it, so it's not like you're going to get an A or a D or whatever. We just want you to go through the process. There's been a lot of thought put into making sure we come up with the right homework assignments so that you get the most out of this 10-week Accelerator program. And so that's why we really want to make sure. Plus, the other reason is if we do get this grant in the end, it's important that you've gone through the background, because we're going to be bringing consultants on board, and they're going to be using terminology and talking about things and A/B testing and conversion and sales funnels. And we really want to make sure you understand what they're talking about to get the most out of it. So hopefully that answers the question about the homework. Again, we'll follow up with specific steps for how to share that homework back with the team.